The Young and the Restless spoilers, Tuesday update full September 3rd, 2024. The tension between loyalty and ambition, tale of deception and redemption. Victor Newman sat in his office, his sharp eyes studying the man before him. Kyle Abbott stood with a confident posture, but Victor could see right through him. The desire to return to Jabbit was written all over Kyle's face, despite the younger man's attempts to mask it. This was not surprising to Victor. Kyle had always been ambitious, eager to prove himself. But what concerned Victor was the growing sense that Kyle's loyalty was wavering, that his commitment to the Newman family's cause was not as strong as he had once proclaimed. Victor had seen it all before. He knew that Kyle had promised to help him take down Jack Abbott, his own father, but the fire in Kyle's eyes was fading. There was no longer that fierce determination, that willingness to do whatever it took to emerge victorious. Instead, there was hesitation, reluctance to fully betray the man who had raised him. Kyle's desire to prove himself as a strong and independent man was commendable, but Victor needed more than that. He needed someone who was willing to go all the way, destroy Jack and take his place at Jabbit. Kyle was not that man, at least not anymore. Victor leaned back in his chair, his mind already calculating the next move. If Kyle was faltering, he needed a contingency plan. The Newman Empire could not afford to be derailed by a man who was unsure of where his loyalties lay. Kyle had yet to truly contribute anything of value to Victor's cause, and now it seemed that he might never do so. Victor could not let sentimentality or indecision ruin his plans. The wheels in his mind began to turn as he considered the alternatives. There were always other pawns to play, other pieces to move on the board. Kyle, meanwhile, was deep in thought as he left Victor's office. He knew that he was walking a fine line. His ambition had driven him to ally himself with Victor, to take on his father in a bid to prove that he was more than just Jack Abbott's son. But now, as the reality of his actions weighed on him, Kyle found himself questioning his decisions. He had always been a shrewd player in the business world, but this was different. This was personal, and the stakes were higher than ever. Kyle didn't want to be seen as a traitor to his father, but he also didn't want to be perceived as weak. He had to show that he was strong, that he could build a career on his own terms. But the cost of that strength might be too high. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that betraying Jack would not prove his strength. It would only show his weakness, his inability to stand on his own, without destroying those who loved him. As Kyle wrestled with these thoughts, elsewhere in Genoa City, Sally Spectra was storming out of Adam Newman's penthouse. She had just had another explosive argument with him, one that had left her fuming. She slammed the door behind her, the sound echoing through the stairwell as she descended. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions, anger, frustration, and a deep sense of betrayal. She had given Adam everything, and yet it was never enough. She couldn't keep doing this, couldn't keep letting him drag her down. At the bottom of the stairs, she almost collided with Billy Abbott. He was leaning against the railing, seemingly lost in thought, but he looked up as she approached. There was a moment of silence between them, the tension hanging in the air. Sally could see the wariness in Billy's eyes, and it mirrored her own. "Rough day?" Billy asked, his voice carrying a hint of sarcasm. Sally let out a bitter laugh. "You could say that. Another round of dealing with a man who can't seem to decide whether he wants to be with me or push me away." Billy nodded knowingly. "I've been there. With Chelsea." The mention of Chelsea's name sent a wave of anger through Sally. "How do you do it, Billy? How do you forgive someone who's betrayed you? Can you even be happy with them again?" Billy's expression darkened as he thought back to his tumultuous history with Chelsea. "Forgive? Maybe, but forget? Never. Chelsea and we've been through it all. She betrayed me once, and I let it go, hoping things would be different. But then she did it again, and that was it. I'm done. I can't keep going back to someone who doesn't respect me enough, to be honest." Sally sighed, feeling the weight of his words. "So you think it's hopeless then? No chance for a happy ending?" Billy looked at her, his gaze intense. "Sally, people like us, people who've been through the ringer with relationships, we have to learn when to walk away. Some things can't be fixed, and chasing after what could have been, what should have been, it's a waste of time. We deserve better than that. We deserve to be happy, truly happy, with someone who won't keep breaking our hearts. Sally nodded, understanding what he meant. She and Billy were not so different after all. They had both been hurt, betrayed by the people they had loved, and yet here they were, still standing, still fighting for something better. Perhaps it was time for both of them to let go of the past, to stop dwelling on the pain and focus on the future. Maybe you're right, Sally said softly. Maybe it's time to stop trying to fix the unfixable and start looking for real happiness. Billy smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. That's the spirit. It's not going to be easy, but we can do it. We can move on, leave all this behind, and find the happiness we've been missing. As they stood there, sharing a moment of understanding, the weight of their pasts began to lift, just a little. There was still a long road ahead, full of challenges and uncertainties. For the first time in a long while, both Sally and Billy felt a glimmer of hope. They had been betrayed, hurt, and let down, but that didn't mean their lives were over. They still had the chance to write new chapters, find joy and peace in ways they hadn't before. And so, as they walked away from that stairwell, each heading in their own direction, they did so with a sense of resolve. Pain of betrayal would not define them. Instead, they would take control of their own destinies, determined to find the happiness they both deserved. This narrative builds on the key elements of betrayal, loyalty, and the pursuit of happiness, weaving together the characters' motivations and struggles to create a compelling and dynamic story.